Hey guys, welcome back. If this is your first time here, my name is Dennis Coronel. I am a wedding photographer with 10 years experience. Today, I want to talk to you guys about second shooting or assisting in the wedding industry. There isn't really a rule book. There are a lot of unwritten rules to follow, and it's a little difficult to navigate if you're just getting started and you don't really know who to ask or have anyone to ask. And so I thought that I would create this video to hopefully help some of you who are thinking about getting into wedding photography and are looking for a way in. Second shooting and assisting is an excellent way to get experience and to meet people as well. So let's dive right in. So I think it's a great way for me to start, or a great place for me to start would be to share my own story on how I got started with wedding photography. And long story short, I went to film school, graduated like a few days later or a week later after graduation. I was connected with a wedding couple out of Connecticut who were getting married here in Southern California. It was 3 days out. I was hired to shoot their wedding film, and subsequently, I hired a team of 5 for their wedding day. You know, keep in mind, I'm just fresh out of film school and I'm thinking about creating this production. I had an editor on site and 4 cameramen, and it was overkill. However, what that process or what that day did to me was completely transform me, and I ended up walking away from this degree that I worked hard for, you know, to earn. With one single event. And what had happened was, by the end of the day, I was filled with so many raw emotions that I was just really overwhelmed. I was crying. Father of the bride goes up, gives his speech. I'm in tears. So that drive home was an interesting one. I was basically brainstorming on how I'm going to get into this industry that I knew nothing about, but felt immediately compelled to be a part of. The one thing that I noticed that day was a level of proximity that the photographers had with the couple. And I'm sure it had to do with the fact that I was brought in 3 days prior. They knew nothing about me. But that level of proximity is what I wanted. It's, you know, the feelings that I experienced and shared that day is something that I wanted over and over again. So I immediately knew that I wanted to get into photography and not video early on in my career. So how I got my start after that, right, because it's just that one wedding, I didn't have a portfolio to build upon and start booking weddings. I needed to get some images and a portfolio going. And how I went about doing that was connecting with an old friend who happened to be a photographer and videographer and was booking these jobs, booking wedding gigs and all these different proposals. And I ended up just coming on board and assisting him and lending a hand. So this is a little bit of luck. You know, for those of you who don't have that type of connection with anyone, you don't have any friends, or there's no degree of separation with you and anyone who might be able to lend you a hand, it is really going to be up to you to get out there, put yourself out there, do some cold calls, do some cold emails, reach out, DMs. And I know it might feel a little cringe, but that's just the era that we're in. And if you really want to break into this industry, that's what's going to have to happen. I myself have received DM solicitations. I don't always get back to people. I don't always accept their invitation for me to hire them. And so I understand how tricky that is. I would strongly suggest that you find someone that you admire and that you really like, and then work on building a relationship from there. So being a fan always helps. Being supportive, hitting likes and comments and talking to them, engaging them, and really being genuine about this interaction is going to go a long way, where they'll be thinking of you. So the next time that they might be in a bind or they need someone last minute, they're going to think, hey, like, Joe has been he's great, he's awesome, I love chatting with him, he's super supportive. Let me go check out his work really quick and see if I can use him. And, you know, hopefully you've done your share of shooting, and it could be anything, but hopefully you have a scope of work that demonstrates your skill and your desire to want to improve and get better, and that's where opportunities come in. So sometimes things don't fall in your lap. You have to make these opportunities for yourself, and one way of doing that, again, is engaging people, other artists, other photographers, other creatives that you're a fan of, being genuine about those interactions, and just go from there. If you're not getting anything, or if you're just like, this isn't panning out, I'm waiting too long, it doesn't hurt to be direct. Again, don't be abrasive, be gentle with your approach, choose your words carefully, kind of explain. You don't have to overshare either. Just kind of explain where you're at and what you're trying to do and how you're willing to help. One thing I learned many years ago working at Best Buy, actually, I had a manager there who taught me very early on. It's like one of the first days he kind of took me around and taught me several things that I took with me for, that I still apply today, is I was taught to throw money upwards. So help those above you earn money or make money, and they'll just kind of pull you with them. So how you can apply that to what we're talking about today is, if you get that opportunity, to assist someone or second shoot with someone, make sure that you're working hard to elevate them, their brand, their work, the customer service, the relationship that they have with other vendors and the clients, of course, so that they will remember that experience and continue to bring you back. But if you kind of show up on a job and it's a little self-serving, we will notice that, and we won't send that invitation again. It could be a little bit finicky in that way. It's an industry where you're really dealing with personalities, and everyone's different, so you don't really know. I mean, it's a service-based industry, right? So you want to make sure that you are aware of that and you're not ruffling any feathers. So hopefully that covers how to get that going, how to get a job started, how to actually get an assisting job or a second shooter job. Again, going back to my story, is I had a friend who started bringing me on these weddings. I started building my portfolio. I'm very blessed that he paid me the full rate of a working second shooter at that time. So I was not expecting that. I did not go and work for free. Some of you might have to do that. You're just gonna have to assess where you are, whether you can handle that workload, whether you can afford to go out and spend a whole day and work for free, or whether you want to have your gas covered. You're just going to have to weigh out the pros and cons and see if it's worth getting images for your portfolio, which brings me to another point. And again, this is something that isn't really spoken out loud, and it changes from photographer to photographer. So you get the job, you're assisting or you're second shooting. Do you have rights to those images? This will vary. Some photographers have very strict guidelines or contracts or policies in place that they'll have you sign before you sign on, before you come on board. And some of them might have stipulations where you don't have permission to use any of those images. You would hope that the pay matches that, so it compensates you in a way where you don't even feel the need to ask for those images because you're being fairly compensated. However, if you're on a lower rate, you would think that the trade-off would be for you to get permission to use those images for your portfolio, whether it's your website or your Instagram, as long as appropriate credit is given to the photographer, to the primary photographer who brought you on board. Again, this varies. Everybody runs their own businesses the way that they see fit. Someone might tell you not to tag any of the vendors or any of the venues or do any geo-tagging, and that's simply so that you don't take or draw away any attention from their tunnel of marketing that goes to them, right? So if I can explain this to you, if I shoot a wedding and I bring you on and you're shooting with me, it's up to me to decide how I want to move forward with the marketing of that wedding and how I want to deploy that content to generate more leads for myself. So I might immediately start sharing pictures, whether it's on Instagram with sneak peeks and tagging other vendors and the venue and the couple. And now their little circle, their social circle, their bubble of friends and family see all of those images. And when they click on it, they're immediately and automatically directed to my page, to my Instagram. So there's a funnel of leads, of potential leads that are coming my way. However, as a second shooter, if you're simultaneously posting on Instagram and you're tagging other venues and you're tagging the vendors and the couple and all that stuff, what's happening is that you're diverting that tunnel in your direction, right? So now you're possibly getting leads that you would argue rightfully belong to me based on the fact that I worked for that lead. That's my client. I'm the one kind of generating, I'm kind of orchestrating all of this, for all of this to happen, and you're just kind of coming on board as a second set of hands or eyes. So it really isn't fair in that context for you to just start posting and sharing those images. So I hope that that explains why these policies are put into place by some photographers. Some of them are more strict than others, and some of them are a lot more relaxed. I myself practice something where I will tell my second shooters, like, you can go ahead and use those images as you please for marketing, for your website, for your Instagram, but just give us a bit, right? Just kind of let me post, let the couple post, let us submit to publications, and let those publications be featured and go out and go public. And then after that, just kind of let that fizzle out a little bit and just like, go ahead, like free reign, no problem whatsoever. And it doesn't, you might have to wait a little bit, but that's just kind of how I operate my business. I do work with some photographers who are my friends that I will second shoot with, and I don't even ask. I don't bother to ask to use their images at all. It's just not something that I'm interested in doing. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm so far into my career where that's just not an issue. That's not that's not something that I want to worry about. So, and the compensation, of course, is great. So it's not a thing. Maybe some friends have lower compensation, and so I might be like, okay, this is a great wedding and this would be great for my portfolio. Can I use these pictures? And I'll use them, and it's usually yeah, no problem. I've never really had a problem with that, especially when you're working with your friends. So just something to keep in mind on those policies and how to navigate that. Is just always best to be transparent, to be direct, and ask questions and get that stuff out of the way so that you go into that day knowing how and what to expect after that day's over, right? How you can use those images and so that you don't get blacklisted, or our industry is rather small and people do talk. So be aware of that. Somebody mentioned or asked a question, submitted a question and asked, how much responsibility should second shooters take on? That varies and that depends. Again, every photographer runs and operates their business as they see fit. I'll quickly share how I've been running my business and how I've been deploying my second shooters, and how I now, as of last weekend or 2 weekends ago, have been using my second shooters / assistants, and will be doing that for the subsequent future. Just give me a moment. So in the past, I've hired second shooters to come with me to shoot simultaneously on certain parts of the day. They're getting ready, I'm with the bride, they go off with the groom, ceremony stuff. So just to get a different angle during the ceremony. Same thing with reception. They'll stay behind and shoot cocktail hour while I go do portraits, things of that nature. So just another angle in simultaneous shooting. The problem that I've had with that over the years, and I addressed it, or I recognized this very early on, and I just never was able to implement any kind of change that would help me, was that I was really only using about 10% of the total images that a second shooter would deliver to me. And if you're kind of sitting there asking yourself, that's crazy, what happens with the other 90%? They go bye-bye. When I go through the culling process, my goal isn't to deliver every single second of the day. My goal is to create a concise narrative of the day as it unfolds, right? I want to be able to deliver to my clients a gallery where they can experience what happened from start to finish without being overwhelmed. And so oftentimes these are repeat moments or secondary angles that I make the decision that are not necessary, and I just remove them. And so it leads to that 10% of images from my second shooters, that I ultimately end up delivering. Again, everybody works different. I'm sure there's photographers out there who use all of it and just dump it in and batch edit. If that works for you, that works for you. That's just not simply the brand that I've created for myself, the aesthetic, the look, or the quality of the product that I am delivering at the end of the day. So that was a little problematic, because I am paying an hourly wage or an hourly rate for a second shooter to come out and give their best, and I'm not using everything that they're delivering. So recently I decided to kind of adapt that role, and it's evolved so where it's more of a assistant / second shooter. And for larger weddings, I will require a team of 3, including myself, where it's a dedicated assistant and a dedicated second shooter, and those roles have changed or will change for me, and I'll explain what that looks like now. So assistant, having an assistant, and why I want that and why I need that. I basically want somebody at my hip, at my side all day for timeline management, to be able to help me out with gear, to hand stuff off to me. I do have a small footprint, minimal gear setup, so I don't require swapping or exchanging of gear all the time, but it's helpful for me. It keeps me locked in on what I'm doing, especially if I need something quickly and you need to run across the room to another suite, to the other side of the venue. It's helpful to have someone at my side that I can depend on to do these tasks for me, instead of distracting my second shooter, who him or she might, like they might be occupied or busy with their own tasks and they just can't. So an assistant is wonderful for being able to do this, especially for longer days and bigger weddings. Anything larger than like 100, 150, it's gonna be nice to have somebody with me. This assistant is also going to double as a drone operator. So this is something that's new in my business model. I've only deployed this once before, and this was in a wedding in Cabo not too long ago, where I had my second shooter fly up a drone during ceremony and cocktail hour as well. But this is a role that I don't want my second shooter doing. I would prefer for my assistant to take care of. So I want little vignettes of the day that I can then deliver to the client and vendors of an aerial or bird's eye view of their work. So the ceremony space empty with no guests, no officiants, no vendors, just kind of bird's eye view. To be able to deliver that would be something that's, I think, fantastic for planners, and just a great and new fresh perspective for clients as well. Same thing with their cocktail hour and reception dinner site, if it's not indoors. Obviously this would only work outdoors. Again, I think that the way that planners work is when they deliver or they're designing the layout of the space, they kind of have a bird's eye view format that they show their clients or other vendors that they're working with. And I think that this would be a great way to depict their hard work too, just this sort of aerial bird's eye view. And honestly, it's getting really, really popular and it's high in demand right now. Planners love to see the drone still shot. So if you've been thinking about picking up a drone, I'd say now is the time. I'm gonna pause. My neighbor is moving stuff around. It's creating this crazy sound. Assistant, timeline management, gear management, drone operator, and then finally, something I haven't done yet, but I think would be a great responsibility to add on to that, would be data management. So bringing my laptop with me, and second shooters and myself, we can hand off cards to my assistant at the end of the night and have her offload the cards onto my hard drive, and just making sure that everything's backed up. Might even be able to start calling then, but I doubt that I'm gonna do all of that. It's just a great way to keep track of all of the data and making sure that all the images are getting backed up on site, so that I have them in multiple sources and not just in my card until I get home. Now moving on to the second shooter role, I recently returned from Ireland, where I attended Engage Summit. And if you're not familiar with Engage Summit, it's basically a summit for the luxury in wedding industry world, and we all get together. There's speakers and there's dinners and gala events and all this stuff. So it's a lot of fun and it's great, super beneficial if you're trying to get, if you're just trying to get a sense of community within the luxury world of the wedding photography industry. And what I noticed were the photo teams. The photo and video teams were just running around, getting amazing content of all of us there, all of the attendees, taking pictures left and right. And I really enjoyed that experience, being on the other side of the camera and then seeing the instant gratification of the pictures going up and the galleries going up hours later. But it was their work ethic and seeing how these photographers were basically event photographers. We weren't at a wedding, right? But they were going around and covering everybody, making sure that everybody was photographed. And this is something that I feel like is an approach that we're not really applying in the wedding industry with our second shooters. And so I want to bring on someone who is going to act as an event photographer for the entire day, right? Their main focus will be guests, family members, bridal party, anyone else besides the couple, their mind and their brain should be just kind of operating in this like event photographer capacity, where they're there to document everyone having fun, candid shots, posing, getting portraits, everything that's happening behind me. So I would prefer that to be going on than getting a side angle of whatever I'm shooting, which I don't need. You know, if I want a side angle, then I'll go ahead and get it myself. I want to be able to focus on the couple for the whole day. I want to have tunnel vision. I want to be able to just get this story and capture the story the way that I see fit, and have my second shooter act as an event photographer that's capturing everything else that's happening throughout the day and into the evening, and of course into the festivities of the night. I think this is a great approach. It's a practice that I haven't deployed yet, but I will be with my next upcoming wedding at the beginning of the year in January. So if you're listening to this, and if either of those positions sound appealing to you, drop me a comment, send me an email or a DM, and reach out and let me know that you're interested, and I will take a look at your work. We'll have a short conversation and we'll see if you're right, you know, if you're a good fit. So second shooting. What else could I explain? Work ethic, demeanor, hygiene, presence, wardrobe. Like, these are all things, right, that I think are important to discuss. Work ethic. That's been such a hard thing for me to find. And you're always kind of seeking someone who's gonna work as hard as you or harder. You just never really know, right, until you get out there and you're working with this person. So I'd say that, again, as a second shooter, as an assistant, it does require a level of selflessness and hard work for you to fill that role and achieve those duties and tasks in a manner in which is going to continue getting you brought back. And again, if your goal is to grow your portfolio, you want to get called back, right? You want to go to these amazing venues and celebrations and grow your portfolio and get these experiences, get the motions, you know, get familiar with the motions of the wedding day, so you get that timing right and you're able to anticipate these moments and be ready to go for when you book your own wedding. So work ethic, very important. Just bust your ass off. I think that is one of the things that has, early on in my photography, was able to create a lot of opportunities for myself, where I was brought on with, you know, top photographers, and I worked my ass off. On one occasion, I almost passed out from dehydration because the sun was beating so hard. I wasn't drinking any water. I was loading film. I was, you know, doing all that. So make sure that you're taking care of yourselves and that you're staying hydrated. Don't pass out, but work hard. Next up is presence. So it's a balance. It's all about understanding how to balance your own personality, as well as understanding that you are in a secondary role. This isn't your show. This isn't your client. These aren't your vendors for you to network with. You're there in a supportive capacity and know your place. So please understand that. Don't come in with a boisterous energy, with inappropriate jokes, with talking too much. Even talking too little can be a little jarring. You know, having a little bit of awkward presence, this is important to be aware of. You know, you don't want to take away from your lead, your primary, your friend, or your potential mentor. You don't want to take away from them and what they're there to achieve and accomplish. So know your place, know your role. You know, be a friend of mine recently. He sent a comment out because I posted this on Instagram that I was going to be making this video. He said something along the lines of be likable but not memorable. I mean, that's fine. That's interesting. I think that, yeah, you want to be likable, but you also don't want to stand out in someone's memory like, oh yeah, like that guy was a little weird, huh? Like he was too loud, or he kind of said an inappropriate joke or something. And I get it. I totally get it. You know, but just try to kind of reel in all of that stuff. What else could I do? So that goes hand in hand with professionalism. You know, be professional. No, don't be sloppy. Dress well. If you don't have a suit, it's okay, but like learn how to put together an outfit. You know, I think that you are attending events where people are wearing bespoke suits, custom gowns, black tie events with tuxedos. You know, a lot of money is being invested in these gala events, and you have to kind of blend in all that. And you don't want to stand out for all the wrong reasons. You don't want to stand out because you look sloppy, you look unkempt, or any of that. So pay attention to that. I understand that you might not be in a position where you can afford a brand new suit or anything like that. There are ways, you know, there's ways to shop cheaper, shop smarter. If you don't know anything about style or fashion, be resourceful. Watch some YouTube videos. I'm sure there are content creators out there who are teaching you how to dress and how to dress on a budget. So there are also going to be brands and companies who create work that are amazing for clothes, that are amazing for work. You know, as a photographer, I'm running around, I'm squatting, I'm running, I'm sweating, and so I want to have clothes that fits me well, that I feel comfortable in, that I don't feel like I'm going to rip or tear when I bend down. And so there are certain companies and brands that cater to people like me. What else? What else could I tell you about second shooting? Gear. I don't like talking about gear. I don't want this channel to be about gear, even though I've posted and I will continue to post some gear related things, but I'm not a gear head. I'm not motivated by the gear or the tools that are in my kit. They're just that, they're just tools, but it is an important part of the topic of conversation that we're discussing here, which is gear, having the appropriate gear. Everyone is different. Some photographers require that you be a Sony shooter or a Canon shooter or a Nikon shooter or Fuji, whatever. Just know your audience, right? Just like whoever you're working with, you know, you might not get the job because you have the wrong gear or equipment, and that's okay. That's fine. It's like I wouldn't hire someone that has, you know, like a Sony or something, or Nikon or Canon. I do, but if I'm hiring someone new, but these are photographers that I've worked with for years already, and I love their work, and I know they're going to deliver amazing stuff. But as it stands right now with my setup, I don't want to have all these different, you know, camera, like different files to work with and all that stuff. I'm trying to make my life easier. So I am going to be looking out for what gear you have. Zoom or prime lenses, again, that's gonna vary. Some photographers, I was super minimal. I didn't care. You can come on with like one lens. You can come on with a 50 and you'd be okay. But if you had a 24-70, even better. You know, you get all focal lengths, it covers it. I'm good. I'm good with that. Everyone's different. So some people will require you to have a 70-200, a prime 50, a prime 35, and this and this and that. And I'm just not that. So everyone is different. Just kind of understand that, accept that, embrace that. So if your gear is limited, don't be discouraged. You know, if you have one camera, one lens, there are photographers out there who will be okay with that, and some who will even let you use their gear. What else could I tell you? Okay, I think I'm good with second shooting. And if you have any other questions on that, let me know in the comments. If you feel I skipped over something important, please let me know, and then I can create a part 2 to this or just answer you directly. But I think that about covers second shooting. Oh, one thing about the industry that I have not covered, and I don't have experience in this, is photography teams with over 3 shooters. So I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8 photographers for one wedding. Don't ask me, I don't know. I don't know that I will ever want to be a part of a wedding like that. I don't know, I mean, who knows? The paycheck might make me feel different, but that sounds crazy. That sounds like a lot. And I know that there are photographers out there who are documenting events like this of this scale. And that sounds intense. I cannot imagine what it must be like to manage, you know, 7 or 8 photographers under my team in one day. Yeah, so it's not for me. So what else? Okay, let's go on to a very, very short Q&A. Someone asked, how much responsibility should second shooters take on? Again, that depends on the photographer. So just communicate with them, ask them what their expectations are, and you're just gonna have to assess if it's worth it, worth the pay. And it just depends on where you're at, right? So if you are just getting started, just take it all, just take it all. Just make sure that you're securing those images for your portfolio use. If you're a seasoned photographer and someone is asking you to second shoot, and you might not be okay with the pay and they're asking too much of you, communicate that. Be like, okay, this is fine, but do you mind bumping up the pay this much? If they really want you to do it, and if not, if it's just not in their business model, they'll move on, and I think so will you, and it just depends on how you feel. Again, you have to assess every situation. What else? Here's an unrelated to second shooting question is could you or would you shoot an entire wedding on a Q2, on a Leica Q2? I answered this question directly to this person, but I thought that I would answer it here. No, I don't think that I would. I don't think that I would make that decision of just sticking to a 28mm focal length for an entire wedding. Again, my cameras are my tools and I deploy them accordingly. And sometimes I do need that compression. I need that distance. I need that, to be able to get close up and get that beautiful classic portrait with the 50 that it provides. And although the Leica Q2 is amazing and beautiful and it crops really well down the center, it is not something that I would use all day. However, it is something that I want my second shooters using all day moving forward. I do have a friend, second shooter turned friend photographer who has a Q2, and I've instructed him that moving forward, he's to leave his Canon at home, or maybe just leave it in the kit and pull it out if really, really necessary in case of emergency. But I want him to shoot on the Leica Q2 all day, just 28mm format. I don't need anything else from my second shooters beyond that. Again, I want him to approach the day as an event photographer and to capture all those moments. And I think that focal length is perfect for that. So I hope that answers that question. What else? Somebody else did ask me a question that I didn't necessarily want to answer, or how could I explain? The question is, which Leicas on a wedding do you shoot with? Why? And can you provide picture examples in the video? So that for me feels too instructional. It's almost like a step-by-step tutorial of what to do on a wedding day, and that's not who I am, and that's not what I intend to do. I feel like I would be handicapping you as a photographer if I approached my channel like that, my content like that. It's not my teaching style either. What I want to be able to do, and what I explained to this person, and I think I tried my best to answer his question as best as I could, is that my job is to provide you with the level of insight and provide you with tools so that you can go out there and make your own decision about which camera and lens combination you're going to use throughout the day based on how you're seeing and experiencing whatever's happening in front of you, which then makes you decide how you want to interpret that. And I can't give you a formula for that. There isn't a one true way to approach any given moment. So that is just something that you are all gonna have to learn to do on your own, and this comes with experience, and this comes with visual language, this comes with personal life experiences, this comes with you tapping into whatever is happening in front of you. In other words, being present and being aware of how it's making you feel, how it's making you see the world around you, and what you want to say about it when the day is over. This is what's going to help you reach for your bag and get that 28, get that 35, get that 50mm lens or tighter. It's gonna help you reach for the medium format camera or the full frame one or the film camera. There's so many decisions, right, to make, and you won't know until you possess these, for me, I think the experience, right? So although I won't be creating content that shows you like a step-by-step of what image belongs to what camera on a wedding day, I think that if you just visit my website, if you visit my Instagram, you can see my work and you'll be able to tell what's a 50mm lens and what's taken on a wider angle focal length. And you'll kind of be able to put those pieces together, because I want you to arrive to those conclusions on your own. And this is also a great way for you to kind of click away from YouTube and go look at my work, right? So go look at my work, go, website and Instagram, the links are below. And you can kind of explore and just kind of connect everything that I talk about on this channel with how I operate and how I tell my stories. So there's that. Next up on the channel, so the next video, I will be opening up my camera bag and showing you what I bring with me on a wedding day. This has been I don't want to say highly requested video, but it's been some time that I've been getting requests for people to see what's in my camera bag, what I bring with me on a wedding day, and how I use those tools. I will tell you that, again, I have a super minimal approach to how I capture a wedding. So I'm excited to share that with you all and provide you with some further insight on what a photographer like myself uses and deploys on a wedding day, and how I approach, you know, a wedding with the tools that I have available to me. So I hope that this was helpful, insightful for you all. Again, if you have any more questions regarding second shooting, or if you yourself are interested in filling any of those roles as assistant or second shooting for me in the future, drop me a line, send me an email, link me to your work, make it easier for me to see your work so I can understand who you are as a storyteller, and then we'll go from there. But thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.